All right. Good evening. Good evening. We are live. I'm here with my brother Abrie, and we're looking forward to having a good time. How are you, sir?
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pete, in absolutely always what a privilege to be with you. Such a handsome guy, such a well-spoken guy, such a smart guy. Always easy to talk to handsome people and yeah, handsome smart people.
I hang around you so that I can look intelligent. That's right.
For goodness
And,
sake.
and 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 to that end, I'm telling you, I'm already thinking tomorrow for that call that you and I do. We're going to record one tomorrow that's going to be super important, I think. But
Hmm.
I already am aware of the fact that I'll be the dumbest guy in the room.
I don't know about that. You have two jurists at your
I
hands,
have
but you're the
absolutely, man.
theologian. But yeah, you're
Um,
right. It seems like the lawyers are really leading the charge.
this is going to get really interesting tomorrow. I am super excited about that. So we'll record that. It should be up in the next day or two or whatever. I won't wait to pull the trigger on that one. But we have got a
Mm.
fantastic discussion and guest tomorrow that I wake up in the middle of the night going, man, I want to ask him this. I want to ask him that. So,
Yeah, all the way from my homeland, South Africa. It's going to
another
be a
South
great one.
African. So apparently the
Yeah.
father's doing something really, really big right now in South Africa. And this is exciting to
Mm.
watch to kind of, and of course you get front row seats with your connections there in country. And so that's super exciting.
And
Tonight
we
we're going to
actually, and
go
Pete,
ahead.
sorry to add, we actually have
No,
a
no.
South African signing in right here. Corney Brits. He's also a young man there from South Africa, and he's 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's signing into your show. Im- that's impressive.
Well, fantastic. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And so I'm excited. I've seen for a couple years the constant traffic. At one point, South Africa was the second most common country reading stuff that I have on academia.edu, which was kind of interesting. I was always shocked by that, and then now I'm starting to see maybe a little bit why the father's got something going on there that's specific, and so it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
Very good. And then I guess you and I both just coming off of the Kingdom Restoration Conference and already starting to do some planning for next year. We've done a little bit of a talk on that one, but wow, how exciting was that? How much fun was that?
Because that Kingdom Restoration Conference was an absolute upgrade from last year. Uh, there's a lot of things we've learned, a lot of things we are just excited of doing better. And for everybody listening in, don't miss 2028, because what the men and women that are at the steer of this conference have planned, and keeping the trajectory that our heavenly Father has put us upon, there's a lot of excitement, a lot to look forward to. And then you probably will speak about the recording, I assume.
Well, we will. We can talk about that for just a second, real quick. I see New Zealand is in the house. We also have South Africa in the house. So we've got currently the sun is not setting on us.
Yeah, it almost sounds like the despised British Empire, but hey, that hashtag, just excuse me.
But anyway, it's interesting. It's always fun to see what the Father's doing around the world. If we, if you'll bear with me just a second, I need to change this. I had some pictures prepared, and I was just going to flip through some of the images at the very beginning of the conference, but we can run over the conference page too. Let me see what I've got here. Yeah, right here we can share this. And I just have some pictures. One of the things that we did this year, you see behind me, my flag. But one of the things that we did tonight, we're going to be talking about the man as king in his domain, or each man as king. And one of the things to that end that we had everybody do at the conference this year, or many participate. I think some didn't necessarily understand, and maybe I didn't convey it well enough. But each man bringing a flag to represent his family, his heritage, his lineage, where he's going, this kind of thing. And it was really exciting to see the men out in the hallway prior to the initial entrance as the flags. We're not supposed to see those pictures, right? I have literally hundreds of pictures here. We had a couple photographers that were enjoying out here just getting ready for the initial entrance, and men showing each other their flags and talking about the different elements on the flags and the families represented and that sort of thing. This was really, really cool. It was a fantastic element of the conference. And yes, next year, I think it'll be a much, much bigger gathering. So this was all preparation for marching in and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the flags were really one of my favorites for this at this year's conference, Pete. Your vision in bringing that as an element was absolutely fantastic, as well as the addition of the streamers, or the battle streamers, or the conflict streamers, or the theater streamers, which Americans really have taken to the next level, and having the opportunity to take that and then add that to the flags was absolutely fantastic. For those who don't know, if you're a man and you attended the 2026 conference, you get a 2026 conference streamer that you add to your banner. And then what you do is, if you're a man with 5 children, you get a streamer. Now, you don't get streamers for the amount of wives you have. That's not, but you do get streamers for the amount of kids you have. And that very deftly done. And it just adds another layer. I think one of my favorite ones, Pete, was for fathers who had their sons there. Was it 20 years and older? If they had their sons there 20 years and older, the continuation of one's legacy. Absolutely well done.
So that was very exciting. And for anybody that's interested in that, all that information is free at kingdomrestorationconf.com. The conference itself is not. You do have to, or you can purchase that. I highly recommend it. I think just Brother Jan's message on Friday morning about the Devar and the importance of that in the formation of your house and family and everything else was worth every bit of that. But it is a total of 15 hours, technically 14 hours and 59 minutes. I tried to get Dustin to stretch it out a little bit. But on kingdomrestorationconf.com, if you go to the flags, there's information on where we got our stuff, how we did it. I've got a video right there on how you can do, or what you can do with your family flag. You can see in this image a couple of the streamers hanging right there. And then sources, what the standards are, sources, all of that is there. And then some other images with regards to different pieces, parts. The part that I enjoyed the most out of the whole flag issue was the Wackenswans boys standing, this is 8, 9, maybe 10-year-old boys standing there, explaining to the entire audience. And this is in the video that we have for the conference. It's, from the Sunday morning portion, explaining to the whole audience what each element on the flag means and what the significance is. And you can just see the pride that they have in their dad, their family, the heritage. And part of that is what this helps. It's a tool to help instill that. So
I think also to what you just said about the Wachenschwanz children or sons, it's explaining, and they're young. I mean, they're what the oldest one is 13, 11, 9. They're a young set of young boys. And one thing that struck me was when they said that this is the banner for our family. And they explained to the elements, and one of the elements was because they were part of the Navy. They're a family that are very closely connected to the Navy, and they're referring to their grandfather, and they're referring to their father. But they went and they said, and they want to refer that this is the flag of their uncle.
Yes.
And suddenly you have not just this not just the family building tall, they're also building wide, and that was significant. Together with the point, Pete, where you would see that when men looked upon each other's flags and standards, there was a sense of pride of your own, but that patriarchal recognition that you are standing in front of a man that may not that has his own standard, but he adds the same level of value to the legacy and the progeny of which he is part, but also of what he is establishing.
Mm,
Suddenly you're looking upon another patriarch, and that mutual respect and honor suddenly starts flowing both ways.
mm. Yes, and I thoroughly enjoyed. I really just enjoyed seeing on display the fact that it's very visible when these young men are sitting there and telling these things, and every son should have that capability, but we've lost a lot of that in our culture because of the industrialization, the removal of patriarchy, all of this to just make us cogs in a wheel. And I think this speaks in part to exactly where we want to go this evening, where we're talking about each man as a king, right?
Mhm.
King of his own domain.
Mhm.
And a king is going to think much more highly of himself and his role, his responsibility, the lineage that he came from and is representing, and his responsibility to future generations in his domain. And to me, the flag speaks similar to that. Who has everything I've ever seen with kings and stuff from the medieval time frame, you always see a boatload of flags. There's always something there representing the different lineages and the family crests and stuff. And for those that are interested in getting more, I recommend that you go to kingdomrestorationconf.com. I can put that up here just so you can get that. kingdomrestorationconf.com, and you can see if you click the flags link on it or about the flags, it will take you to a page that's got a bunch of free information. I think most flags that were designed by the family either took elements of their known family crests or did some background research, figure it out. In some cases, put it in AI. In other cases, had something drawn up. But then the actual printing of a double-sided banner with grommets that's the size we're looking for is like $36. It's cheap. And the nice heavy poles that we've got, it's just a regular indoor flag pole. They're links to Amazon for I don't know $59 or $60, and then if you get a finial or something to go on the top, that's something a little different, but cost a couple more dollars. But this is something you can do and have in your home that that you can point to for you, your sons, and that's very good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I for those, get ready. You may not be able to attend 27, although I would highly recommend you do so. But get your standard ready. Pun intended. There's two things that goes with that standard. It is an external declaration, but it's also an internal confirmation. So, yep, get those standards ready.
And the I was going to say something else. Yeah, the standard is something you can take with you to Sukkot. It's something that you can have between now and Sukkot and post in front of your tent at Sukkot. This is who I am. I'm a man of Israel, right? And this is you. If you know tribal where you think you fit tribal wise, you can put that on there, right?
Absolutely.
So fantastic. All right. So the topic this evening, what we really want to talk about a little bit is each man as king in his domain. And the thing that the reason I'm particularly asked for my brother Abrie to be on here is because I know this is an area that he has really applied some mental work to, and so we can talk through it. We can, we don't necessarily have an outline or anything, but what precipitated this was the Nathan Lawrence response video. Now, I do response videos for those that may not be familiar with me. I one of the things that both Abrie and I teach is headship and patriarchy. Abrie has a training or a coaching platform where he encourages and strengthens men. It's maximumpotentia.com. And then I have one with my patron. It's Parlay with Pete Rambo. I'll put that up in a little bit, but we'll run this for a second. But in doing this, we coach men. And part of what I do is I make response videos and things with regards to teaching biblical marriage. And so I did a response video to Nathan Lawrence. I hear your computer big time.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. And if you need to, if you're typing notes or whatever, cool. I don't know, the microphone, it sounds like is
there we go. There we go.
Okay, perfect. No problem. But in the Nathan Lawrence video, one of the things that he said in my first response kind of stuck in my craw, and I had to go back and address it more directly in the second response video that was much shorter. Because one of his statements was, well, you don't need to do polygyny because you're not a king. Kings needed an heir. And since you're not a king, and he's speaking to whoever the audience is, I don't think he was speaking directly to me. He may have been at a different point in that video. but he says, you're not a king. We're not building tribes, and you're not patriarchs. That's really what he said. And it really stuck with me, stuck in my craw. And I started pondering that for days, and it really was bothering me to the degree that I had to go back and start thinking this through. And so this is what I want us to talk about a little bit, is each man as king. But kind of to open this discussion up, Abrie, what would your biblical justification be, or how would you begin to build out biblical justification for the man as a king?
So, Pete, thank you very much. This is a very good question. I would love to give you a very short answer, but I need to explain, just lay the foundation, because we need to look. If we look at the nation, or let me say, if we look at secular world, how the legal or jurisdictions are set up, you have private and public sector. Public exists out of the judiciary, the state, and the government, the elected government, whereby your private would be your corporation, your economy, and your individual. So your individuals can have private arrangements and contracts with each other, participate in the economy, depending on which school of economics you are from, Austrian or whichever one. Depends what the level of government and participation is in that economy, and how the government enters into the private sector or pushes his fingers into trying to take control of it. But in Torah, you actually have three sectors. Unlike secular, you have a third sector, which is the ecclesiastical, or what you say, the priestly. The priestly part is run by the head priest or the chief priest, and that part is the part that makes sure that the moral substance of our Heavenly Father's law is actually being responsibly applied in the public and the private sector. Now, this may still just sound to academics to you, but why this is important is because in Torah, but in the Bible as a whole, your property rights and your inheritance rights are superior laws. In other words, property right is right on top. You cannot take properties from somebody. We saw Ahab go, and he took the what do you call it? I'm thinking in Afrikaans here. They took the farm, oh my goodness, the grape farm, where all the grapes and everything. It took claim to that, but the reason why he did that was simply because he thought he could take it. But he couldn't. The vineyard. Thank you very much. The vineyard. Thank you, humble servant. What a guy. I should be sitting here with a dictionary. But he took the vineyard, and at the end of the day, they were punished for that, because property was directly connected with the lineage. We saw that the borders of each tribe was exactly established, and with Zelophehad, who didn't have a son at all, there was particular exceptions had to be made to ensure that inheritance is not lost to the tribe through the fact that the daughters may marry outside of the tribe, so that these property be retained within the jurisdiction of that particular tribe. And to this point, you just brought up about inheritance. It is exceptionally important, because what we have today is we inherited from our fathers, but we are actually borrowing from our future generations. And so inheritance is extremely important to ensure that that continues through the lineages. And so fathers who didn't have sons, the exception had to be made through the example of Zelophehad. But now the problem we have in modern society is that we've come to this idea that, listen, if a man only has daughters, man, it was probably our Heavenly Father's idea that you only have daughters. Now, it may be that you may only have daughters through that one woman, but you had to ensure, especially when you have property within a certain jurisdiction of the tribe, that there is a continuation. Now, if you've tried and it doesn't happen, it is our Heavenly Father's will. However, that is part of the kingly responsibility. And to my example I spoke of earlier, that the king was the head of the state, and that inheritance he was still an ordinary citizen, because the property that he may have inherited from his fathers still needs to continue through his lineage. But his responsibility and inheritance that he has as a king, that's a different type of responsibility, because he carries the burden of all Israel, call Israel. He has all of that responsibility to carry. And that governing responsibility is what is inherited and bestowed upon an eligible heir through his bloodline. So I don't think this gentleman that made the comment really understands inheritance and property law, because marital law is subordinate law to property inheritance law, and to make sure that if you're practicing in marital law, that is done in honor of property and inheritance.
I mean, yeah. Even with the daughters of Zelophehad, they were barred from marrying outside of the tribe because they had to bear a son who would inherit the father's property in his name and carry on his name in Israel. Anything after that would, that any son after that could be given to the husband that she married, or would be his progeny. Same thing we see with the Levirate law. The significance of a man's name not being blotted out in Israel is so great that it's important to ensure, even if necessary through polygyny, it's important to ensure that every man has an heir. And it speaks to the very large significance. I talk about king of his domain. You as a man, I as a man, have a responsibility to future generations for those things that I have, in order to, and I love the way you put it, borrowed from future generations. I'm carrying the legacy and the weight of my fathers, but it's my responsibility to pass that on, not just intact, but to enrich it to my sons.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And to your point, Pete, we need to understand that the office of a king is somebody that was appointed by the chief priest, and we see this play out through Saul and David and later on as far as Jehoiada. But at the end of the day, that's the office of a king. But patriarchy, remember, patriarchy as a governing system has different layers. We have in your own immediate vicinity as a man, you're a patriarch to your household. Then you have in your larger family, you have a patriarch who is the head of the family. Then within your community, you would have a representative and a patriarch that's the head of that community. Then from there on, you have a tribal head that would be the patriarch of the tribe. And then you will have the king that actually plays the role of the patriarch of that particular kingdom or beyond. But at the end of the day, and this is why we don't have a monarchy. We do not have, and this is, I want to bury from our fellow Forge member Jared Cheshire, because we debated this matter in the Maximum Potential, Pete, and I was just monarchy and republic, and the other person of my opponent was it's a theocracy, and then Jared just came here with a sledgehammer and he said, guys, you all have it wrong. It's a patriarchy, because and he was absolutely right, and I stood corrected, because the patriarchy in its even in its smallest presentation to its presentation as king, Pete, you have a respect for the patriarch, even its minor capacity. And the minor capacity patriarch has respect for the one that carries a bigger burden. Because up and down, we respect each other. Up and down, we know the responsibility. Up and down, we know what is at stake. And if we are not responsible in our management of our immediate vicinity, we will see this whole house of cards collapse. Now, I don't make reference to House of Cards in light matter, but it just shows you, if you take out one part out of Torah or out of the law, you will see everything collapse, and there is just no harmony at all.
No, that's very true. In fact, I was reading through the Maximum Potential Telegram group, and I saw your head explode. And you probably saw my note. I said, "Was this recorded? I got to see it," because I was not on that call. Y'all's calls and our calls don't necessarily conflict, but when there's so many different things going on, yes. I can't make a. But I said, I want to hear that. I want to go back and hear that exchange, because I'd love to get more depth out of it and really kind of marinate in some of the pieces that I'm sure y'all were working on. Very, very interesting. And Maximum Potential is one great place for coaching with Abrie and Ryan Ridgely, among others. I think both platforms are loaded with men now that are increasingly strong in being able to articulate and understand and process thoughts, and really starting to understand this headship and patriarchy thing.
Absolutely.
So today, one of the things that I did, I took out a book that I've had, and we can talk. We'll get to this probably in a little bit, by Michael Foster and Non-Tenant. And of course, anybody that reads this, be prepared to spit out a lot of bones, because these guys have a lot of good stuff, but they've also got some real problems in there when they tell you that, if you don't have a father, go join the church and submit yourself to the elders. But I don't see that anywhere in there. I do see the wisdom of finding a man, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at your local church. And then some other things. But the point that I wanted to make is that they talked a little bit about the difference between gravitas and kavod, where kavod is the Hebrew word for glory, and that each man you can inherit a level of honor or a level of glory. For example, when we come to faith in Messiah, we belong to him by definition. We automatically carry a certain weight of glory because we are his. However, gravitas is the thing that makes a man, and it's one of those things that a king will bear, and the better the king, the greater the weight, the better he bears it, so on and so forth. Where gravitas is the weight of honor that is typically earned. It is typically something that comes with experience. It comes with time and grade. It comes with a lot of education, maybe the school of hard knocks and that sort of thing. But these are also elements of what it looks like, what it means to be a king, or be the patriarch, the head of, the ruler of your domain, with responsibilities to future generations. What are some thoughts that you might have for starting there?
Well, first of all, honor is part and parcel of being a man. You are driven by honor. It's interesting. what is her name? Armstrong. She's a lady that has been observing women for quite a long time, and she's been writing and she's been speaking about the aspect of that women have no honor, not in the sense that they are dishonorable. It's just they aren't driven by the sense of honor, because what they do is they actually seek men that are honorable, because that feeds that inner part of a woman that wants security. And honor is only obtained, you cannot obtain honor by yourself. If you live by yourself, nobody gives you honor. Nobody recognizes the honor of your way of living. Whereas in a man, and that's the thing what men seek, they seek prestige, they seek honor, they seek to be recognized, and that's what they say. And so they wish not to do something that would diminish that honor amongst their peers. And so we would see that even in our academic writings with men, Pete, you would see that men are really driven to be recognized for the truth or the principle that they are defending. And that part of driving your honor, maintaining the trajectory commensurate to what was established by your forefathers, and the name that is now connected with that level of honor, because we see what Proverbs write about your name. It is important that you protect that, because it's the honor that is what you wish to also see inherited by your sons and in your sons, so that when whatever you do, that people would say, that is a son of Pete Rambo.
Mm.
That is the man that, and that you will see throughout Israel. I need to tell this one quick story. In Japanese culture, because of my experience in martial arts, Japanese culture really is, they would ask you if you have a son, especially when it comes to business dealings, because what they want to see is they want to see that whatever you do is worth passing on to a son. And they would like to, especially old school Japanese, they would like to engage businesses with that, because they understand that the man, the patriarch, or the person that they would be contracting with understands the principle of honor, understands the principle that business is not just making money. Yes, we want to make money, but it is also the respect for the services or the products that you are producing, because your honor is connected with the quality. And that's why men should rise up to be kingly, to be regal, and that's why I have so much respect and honor for you, Pete, because through the time that we've spent together, the time that we've debated, argued, agreed, disagreed, it has always been honorable. And I will consider you a man of honor. And so then when we see another king, we recognize the king in him, the responsibility he carries. Even if he's great or smaller than my kingdom, it does not matter, because I recognize honor for what it is.
And interesting there with the comment whether kingdom is larger or smaller. This is one of the values of men in covenanting, and men in developing a reputation of honor and such, and then connecting with other houses through covenants and stuff. Because what you're looking for is, you're looking for men of honor, you're looking for men of gravitas. We talk about that here in just a second, but you're looking for men who are ruling their house well, who are managing their domain well, who are functioning with the honor and the authority of king. Any woman should be looking for that to be the house that she's connected to, or the man that she's connected to. And for men, the wise thing is to look around and say, who are the men that I want to be connected to? Because together we can go further, right? We see this with all kinds of very common among nations to have treaties and that sort of thing. The most common form of treaty between the average man and his domain in Israel was to marry a daughter, or take a daughter, or to marry off a daughter to another man, in order to connect the houses and to bring the houses together, where each man may be managing his own estate, but now he's in a position to have connection with another for the purpose of lifting both houses, right?
And it's interesting that you mentioned it because Mordecai Friedman, the Jewish historian and theologian, he's written about this not directly to what you speak, but um, at its essence, he's wrote about the Sephardi Jewish communities in the Arabian world, how they would go about the high class or very affluent families would actually continue to marry their daughters to each other, because despite maintaining their own family identity, marrying their daughters created an alliance and connection with these
Mhm.
other families. And some of the medium families really tried and jockeyed to actually marry some of these daughters. And on occasions they did. But he speaks about how these family connections are made. To your exact point, we see this play off in the aristocrats of Europe, where this has happened. A son, Pete, is there to maintain the status quo. What was established by forefathers, maintain that status quo at its bare minimum. A daughter is there to marry off to a family to actually improve the gravitas and the honor of that particular family. And that gravitas is, to your point, Pete, it means the seriousness, the dignity, the
Mm.
solemnity of manner. And that is what we want to see, because like you and I spoke of earlier before we started, a prince may be born with honor,
Mhm.
but through his actions and choices in his own lifetime will determine the gravitas of that honor.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, good stuff right there. The I had a fleeting thought there just a second ago. I was trying to reel it back in. Um, that one got away from me. It'll come back. Um, but yeah, the restoration of Kol Israel. In fact, all of Scripture is rooted in or wrapped around the significance of the house and the man, and the significance of the man in his domain. And so it's important. One of the things that I know where it was. I can go to it right now. It's important that we understand that the culture that we live in has been very intentional at destroying and disassembling the man and separating men, whether it's through industrialization and education, and one goes over there for education and one goes over there for work, and you're scattered all over the planet. The idea is to separate that. And then further, the whole dating culture is about not really developing alliances between families, because you might pick up a girl from a whole different state away, or from some other even cultural system, such that the families are not connected. They don't stay connected through the sons, and they don't stay connected through marital relations and connections. It's essentially an intentional splintering of communities and splintering of patriarchal systems in order to make us all into cogs in the wheel that serve the state or whatever. But that's not the way the Torah was written, right? The Torah is written to a nation and to a people, to men who are intentional in building familial connections, maintaining familial ties, and maintaining your family lands, the inherited properties that you receive, even to the point that if you sold a piece of property at the Jubilee, whether it's 15 years down the road or 45 years down the road, at that point, the property comes back to the family. It's so important that the property remain in the family and return to the man, that even if he gets in dire straits, the father has stopgap methods to say, look, we're going to hit a reset button at this point, and you get to start over, right?
Absolutely, Pete. And to your point, this is very important because Torah once again creates that insurance policy where, let's say, in one family, the patriarch, through his own doing or circumstances, may have suffered certain difficulty. uh, that the next generation is not held captive because of that as well, that there is a restoration that happens. Constantly we see this character. Our Father is a very just God. He's righteous. Righteousness goes with, he understands the law, he understands the application thereof. He understands the principle that one that guilt and mercy is directly connected with each other. We also understand that there is a aspect of restoration that follows in the sense of irresponsible behavior. It doesn't go without pain. It doesn't go without pain, but it does go with the fact that even he knows that tears should be wiped from our eyes when we've suffered long enough to say, but listen here, there is a restoration.
Mm.
And so, to your point, Pete, 100% correct. It is such an amazing, robust system. I believe Torah is the most ancient legal system still active in this world. And we have just for so long read it with our own Christian lenses to wave away our obligations, to wave away our responsibilities, because yes, we are saved by grace. To what you always say, this is where I've listened so carefully to what you've said. We are saved by grace, but we are truly purified by our obedience.
Amen. Amen. Good stuff. A quick comment here, and this from JL Bible Followers. It says, a few minutes behind, while we're not supposed to find a mentor at our local church, it is good advice to go to your local kahila if there are eligible male leaders there to apprentice under. And I would agree. It's, my point specifically is where I would have real heartburn or contention, or a number of places with Michael Foster and non-tenant. And Abrie sent me a link to an article where he took Michael to task. I've been blocked by everything and banned from everything Michael myself. So I have sizable problems with a number of his stances, but they get some things right. My problem with this particular position, though, is his elevation of the church and the pastor to being able to override even the man in his own home. A woman's supposed to be able to get leadership from not just her husband, but also the pastor, to which both of us would absolutely disagree. Not that the pastor may not have good wisdom to share, but he's a teacher. And if we look at scripture, I don't understand pastors being in the same role the way that we see them even now in Christendom. I think, Timothy was more of an itinerant. Paul was definitely itinerant, this kind of thing. And it was up to the local elders that were being built up as the in lieu of the existing patriarchy, as the ecclesia was coming together for the Messiah. So yes, I would agree that you can apprentice under somebody, but at the end of the day, the authority structure is God, Messiah, man, woman, and there's not a place for a pastor to insert himself or others to insert themselves between the woman and the man, or the man and the Messiah. So I wanted to offer that clarification to what we had said.
And Pete, to Jail Bible's followers comment as well, we've gotten to this point due to Christianity that, and then we get to this point where we shouldn't look up to people. It is not that we are looking up to mentors. It is that you have the potential as a man, and one of the guys that I'm mentoring here, Corne Brits from South Africa. When I met this young man, I could see it's like a container. He had such capacity. All I need to do now is I just need to say, I recognize the patriarch in him. That's the first part that I need to do as a mentor. I recognize his potential. I recognize his capacity, but he doesn't have the substance yet. So what I need to do is I need to take the time and say, well, let's walk a path together. And I'm going to pour the substance into you. Okay. and I'm going to pour it, and I'm going to add substance, not to say that you should become like me. That's not what I want you to do. You should become like the king, the Messiah. That's who you should becoming. But what you should be doing is you should start talk like a king. You should start
Mhm.
walking like a king. You should start acting like a patriarch. You should start governing. You should be as strict as a patriarch, but as loving as a patriarch. And so
Mhm.
I act as that example to get him to a position where he can now go ahead and sit with next to me as an equal. That's what I want to see. And then we both follow the Messiah. Then we both become the kahal. We become a kahal to which we keep and hold each other responsible.
Mm.
So it is not for me to govern over somebody. It is for me to guide somebody and to give him the substance so that when I pass from this world, that he'll be twice as successful as what I was.
Right. The when I was first coming to Torah, I was a pastor, and I went and had a discussion with another pastor who was um, a good deal younger than I was, but also probably he was very intelligent, very smart. Okay. And regarded as a rising star or whatever. And one of my criticisms of the church and him was his constant reliance on the church fathers, constant reliance on the church fathers instead of going back to the word. And he made the statement, he says, well, if you won't stand on men's shoulders, you will always be looking at their knees. Which for him, the wisdom was to stand on the shoulders of the church fathers and build on what they had done. The illustration, though, was warped because he's not standing on the right thing. If you're standing on the shoulders of men who are standing on the word, then when young men come along and you build them and grow them, they can then take that further. They can do more with it because they can start earlier in life than we did. They can start with more understanding sooner depth and wisdom and that sort of thing, which is where I would argue I lament often that I came to some of this understanding much later in life than I would like to have. I'm blessed to still have some of my sons in a place where I can have some influence, but they were already beyond the very young years when they're most tender and most easily influenced in a particular direction. And that's one of the beauties where you working with this young man, or us working with others, being able to help set their course, give them some guidance and so on and so forth, but to direct them, continually point them back to the word and to the Messiah so that we can develop, as it were, men who are strong and men who have gravitas in their domain.
And Pete, once again, we're this to the example of standing on top of somebody's shoulders. I was not aware we should be followers of men. I've always understood we should be followers of Messiah, and so, I mean, the things that I've learned from you, and this is the thing that I speak to, is that it was never your intent, since I've known you for since 2018, to lead somebody and just consider them constantly as just a follower of Pete Rambo. Your approach has always been to uplift people, to stand shoulder to shoulder next to you, because there's a lot of work to be done. And so if we have to drag somebody to the fore, it's like war, man. We're at war. We have to pull somebody from the back line into the trenches. He's not standing behind me. He's standing next to me, because otherwise, if he stands behind me, he might shoot me in the back. Understand? We're shooting in the same direction. I need to get him ready, and I need to get him ready fast.
Right.
And this is what we do. We that has always been our approach as patriarchs, to recognize the potential. Now, I just want to mention this. We shouldn't believe that every man can be a patriarch. It is unfortunately a reality that because of poor choices and bad attitudes, that a man will erode his potential of being a patriarch. And so eventually, if we do see a patriarch, we recognize the king, that regalness within him, the king within him. And if he still doesn't have the if he still doesn't have the substance or the gravitas, we should guide this man so that he develops that gravitas and then be an example to who he has to now educate and pull to the fore, so that they also act with the necessary wisdom, based upon and following our Messiah. And so, Pete, once again, that is completely different to what we see in, unfortunately, in Christian churches, where you still have this leader, or you're following this guy. I said this at the conference. Don't praise me. Don't praise me for anything. If you want to say, Abrie, I recognize this, and thank you for being responsible in what you've said. Thank you. I appreciate that. That I can take. But if you're going to start praising me, what you're doing is you keep me on that stage and you stay in the pews. What I want you to do is I want you to join me on the stage, because that is you now taking up the mantle of a patriarch.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that we want to be doing. I know that's vision. You have vision. I have vision. A number of other men around us have, is to be developing other men. Yeah, you're exactly right. I don't want followers. What I want fellow warriors, men that can stand shoulder to shoulder with us. In terms of talking about developing gravitas, what are some of the things? And I am going to refer for a minute to the book that we sort of only partly love.
And it's not the Bible for those who are coming in late.
Yeah. No, it's Good to Be a Man by Michael Foster, non-tenant. I think they've got some significant bones in here, but I have to give credit where credit is due. And so I want to make sure we do that. But he talks about the triad of masculine virtues. And I think all of these are things that every man worth his weight, his gravitas, every man worth his weight will have. And the triad, all three of these, you need all three of these together. Otherwise, the stool doesn't stand up. It's cockeyed. And if any one is too short, it falls over. One's too long, it falls over, right? So he talks about wisdom and the fact that we gain wisdom through the word. We gain wisdom, particularly through the Torah, right? It's the beginning of knowledge, and it's the beginning of wisdom, and that's something that is developed over time, but it's also developed by being around wise men and hearing and learning and growing and observing what they do. But the next one he talks about is workmanship. And I think there are a lot of men out there that think that they don't have to work. They're going to find an easy way out and not become craftsmen in whatever their skill set is, whatever their talents are. There's too much of this desire, I think, in the world around us to get off easy and do it the easy way, or escape the labors of life. But he talks about, as workmanship, most of your success does not depend on skill or mastery, or even to begin with on competence. We know many men with great skill and talent who nonetheless achieve little because they do not work, right? So ultimately looking to work hard in perfecting your craft through labor. And then the third of the virtues that he talks about is strength, which is obviously connected with workmanship. But dealing with the fact that a man should have the ability to work while bearing weight. And that's not just a physical weight, but also the spiritual weight, the burdens of a large family, the burdens of the culture and life around us, the burdens of all these sorts of things. So it's important for us, as we are developing ourselves, as we're developing the men around us, that we're pursuing continually those three areas. We're pursuing wisdom, we're pursuing work or work ethic, and we're pursuing strength in those areas that we're working in, right?
Absolutely. And Pete, this is what I believe. We're getting to a point in human existence where we've seen, if we look into the past, we could see that certain religious groups majored on each one of those principles. One that I know very well is the Protestant, because I come from a very Protestant culture. And a part of Protestant pride is work ethic. Even during the Huguenot phase and the Edict of Nantes in France, they would say that you're as honest and as hardworking as a Protestant. And it's true, because if we look at the development of worlds that of area, worlds with or countries in the world, we would see that the Protestant countries are always the ones with high work ethic. But you see, the only trouble now with high work ethic is that it is not the only part that is required from you. We do not find pride in work ethic. We find pride in obedience. And when we are obedient to our king, especially to his laws, we develop wisdom. But if we do not know what is this to be, Paul says, I know what is right and wrong because I know the law. How do I know what's sin if I don't know the law? And that's where we start developing to understand how to apply wisdom, or how to apply facts upon the law, or the law upon facts, so that that's where this wisdom aspect really develops. And so, Pete, where we are now, we see this Torah awakening, but Torah awakening is not just us blatantly following the law, is to do so with love and understanding, but do still follow the law. But it is also creates us that parable of the rich man giving 5 talents to one servant, the other 3, the other 1. He gave them those talents based upon their capacity, their work ethic, their drive. And so understanding your capacity and acting in its fullest manner is very important. And that is what I start seeing at the moment happening in the Torah communities. Because people are starting to see those 3 pillars. Foster is correct here. I am not a fan, but you're right. I agree with him here. We
But
have those.
I was going to say, I'm not a fan either. I read the book to chapter 8, and then I got into chapter 9, and I almost threw it away. And then it's like, well, there's enough good stuff in the front that I'll keep it on my shelf, but I'm never recommending it again. I broke my own rule.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. I think it's, but once again, also to be understanding to his position is that if you've been indoctrinated for so long in your life, and you don't have sufficient critical thinking to evaluate your own way of thinking, then coming through this whole obedient process of understanding what the intricacies of scripture and the foundations of the whole Bible is based upon Torah, then if you don't want to engage that, I mean, that is not my responsibility to answer for or to speak to. That would be your responsibility, because to Michael Foster, I respect the patriarch in him as well. And he will have to answer and respond to that one day, because I am not an authority above him. I can only whisper from the side.
Amen. Yeah, let me go back and pull this up right quick for see if I can copy this. This will be fun right here. So I got this one in the background as a comment, and I'll post this up here. So if you want to understand more about some of our challenges with the Maxima Potentia, or some of the challenges with Michael Foster and some of the other things that he has said, well, I just let you know, there is an article out there that is written by my esteemed colleague, Abrie here, that covers some of the details of the errors in his polygyny position, which he would want to teach patriarchy, but somehow he wants to take polygyny out of that when the most famous patriarchs in history are mostly polygynous. So anyway, there's that. Now, I do want to leave this open for anybody that's got questions. I saw one earlier. I want to bring that up, and we can talk about that. But we're going to continue talking about just man as king. And so I'll pull this up right quick. From Theology Experience, I have a burning question for your brothers. How do you navigate the fact polygyny is illegal and considered a, quote, felony in most westernized countries and states? How do you avoid criminal status? And of course, this is addressed to two men who have larger families. I would start by saying that polygyny is not a felony in most places. Having two marriage licenses, bigamy, is a felony in many places. And I think increasingly that's being ignored because it's such an obvious open door for a lost political battle that legal systems or governments and so on and so forth are not interested in toying with. However, having said that, I would say for me, I don't have two marriage licenses. Therefore, I am completely within the bounds of what the state says here. I do have covenants, but those are private agreements that we can have as many covenants and agreements as we want with others, as long as each party is agreeable to whatever that covenant is. And that's the circumstance that I have here, right? So that would be my immediate answer. But I think the message that we have tomorrow is going to be, or the interview that we have tomorrow is going to demonstrate that there is a significant wind of change coming. Tomorrow we will, Brother Abrie and I, he arranged it actually, but we'll be interviewing an attorney from South Africa who is going to be relaying how he came to the understanding of polygyny and why it has absolutely blown up. I mean, blown up in South Africa, making big news and rocking huge, making big waves. I don't know if you want to talk about that for just a second, because tomorrow is going to be a good one, but y'all are going to want this one.
Yeah, I think to the point, I want to mention two things regarding our interview tomorrow. I think if there's ever a legitimate reason, now there's many, but if ever there's a massive legitimate reason for you to take a second wife or Isha, it is to this advocate's position that he doesn't have an heir, and he's 58 years old, and his wife is 43. They've been in a relationship for 25 years and have not children, and so. But I will leave that. I don't want to run it ahead because it's going to be a good one. To your point, Pete, regarding earlier, to the question of polygyny being a crime or a felony across the globe or in Western societies, I only know of one country in the world that by name has classified polygamy as a crime, and that's Canada. Section 293 of the Criminal Code has directly classified it in 2019 as a crime. 5 years incarceration. It was a response to the William Blackmore case of 2011. That's where William Blackmore had, I believe, 27 wives. He is a Mormon. It's a Mormon community down in the south of British Columbia in Bounty, and he fathered about 127 children. And what they did is Canada they had a reference going. A reference in law is when they would ask judges to investigate a certain part, have a trial, and then come to a conclusion. And the judge here found polygyny to be against the sacred order. Now, I wasn't aware that churches or let me say the judiciary in Canada, which is a secular state, actually had this sanctification approach to monogamy. I just don't know where they get that. Maybe they were starting to practice Greco-Romanism, but at the end of the day, the conclusion was the criminalization of it. The problem you have with this now, earlier before it was changed to polygamy, Pete, it was just bigamy. Bigamy being you would register 2 licenses. But now what they've did is they've taken away that completely. And so my question here is, how do you prove it? Because they say anything that may look like a polygamous relationship. But the problem you now have is you have a ever-growing polyamorous community in Canada, which now throws a massive wrench in it because we have 4 significant cases in Canada. We have in Nova Scotia, Labrador, British Columbia, and Alberta. We have 4 cases where the judges ruled and said this. They said, in all of these cases with 3 parents that have 1 child and wanted to register their guardianship upon the birth certificate, Pete. And what happened is all judges were challenged by this. And they said, this is not an endorsement of plural marriages, but it is to the advantage of the child in question to have more than 2 parents. So it's going to come down to 293 being found unconstitutional because you already have these contradictions. But let me answer directly to the question of the questioner. It is very simple. What you do in the private stays in the private. If you have numerous relationships in the private sphere, that is your business. And I would highly recommend the communities. Remember, polygyny, monogamy are all academic references. Polyamory is a social political reference. But the best one for us within these polygynous sphere, academic polygynous reference, Pete, is to make use of the ethical non-monogamous classification, because it is so wide that it encompasses all of these types of relationships. Although we may find ourselves governed by our Torah ethics, at the end of the day, by using that, governments are unable to persecute or prosecute you simply because you find yourself in a larger body of people, despite the difference in ideology, that is pushing the envelope. And for my friends in South Africa, it is coming to a neighborhood near you.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely. And I have felt for a long time now. Now, you and I both have dear friends who have been in ethical monogamous relationships. No. Let's see. What was the term you said? Ethical
non-monogamy.
Non-monogamous. I'm sorry. Ethical non-monogamous relationships for more than 30 years, 30, 35 years. We both have friends. We some of the same friends, right? Who have, in the early days, 30 years ago, when they were walking this out, that absolutely was a concern because we were still dealing with a nation that that had not gotten so far left in terms of a lot of its sexual ethics. However, now we're in a nation where, we do righteousness and the church hates it. But the truth is, it's more widely accepted by the left than it is by the right. And as you're saying, with regards to prosecuting it, it's political suicide now for either side to touch it, because they're going to touch their own voter base as much as they're going to touch the other voter base. And so while I'm not a fan of the world's system, we can use it against itself in that regard.
Absolutely. So, and Pete, I just want to mention that I am just looking for one of these articles, an article I wrote, and it is published on academia as well. And my article here, and I'll send you the link. But while I get that, this is a profound article. And I want to say theology's experience is common here that he talks about. He says that in his home state in USA, they are very precise in the legislation to suggest that even the appearance of marriage occurs to more than one spouse, that is a felony. They need to still prove a marriage. Yeah. Appears a marriage. What is a marriage? They need to determine what a marriage would be. because at this present moment, the only definition we have is we have we have relationships that says man and woman can enter into a marriage, man and man, woman and woman can enter all into marriage. But the question here is, what is a marriage? And so we need to, so the courts will have to define that, because at this present moment, with the trajectory we're on, we've lost all definition of what a marriage is. So even if you would say it appears to be a marriage, what do you mean? And so, to that point, to this article, Pete, that I want to make a reference to, I wrote this on international law, and the situation with this article is that we've seen, and I got a lot of feminists in the law department upset with this article because I pointed out to the difference between African feminism and Western feminism, where Western feminism, based upon the CEDAW, United Nations Council, I argue soft law encroachment, but what it talks about is, it talks about the fact that Western feminist says it is a violation of female dignity to be in a relationship with another woman, with a man. However, African feminists argue, who are you to tell us that we are not allowed to have sister wives? So it creates that conflict between worlds. And I'll as soon as I have this, you may have to continue this conversation while I get
No,
you.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You can go find it. But back to the overarching point that we're making here is that I think that law and culture and politics are so messed up that they can't take a hard line against anything or anyone, because they're going to hit their own people. And the end result is that most of them are simply quietly choosing to ignore it. The law may be on the books, but they're not going to pursue it. Think about it this way. Does your state have laws on the books for sodomy? Does your state have laws on the books for adultery? I guarantee you both sets of laws are on the books somewhere, but do they get brought into play? No, not unless it's a side issue to something else where you're really doing something stupid. I think as long as you keep your nose clean and don't set yourself up for other attention, and then this gets piled on, the truth is I don't think they care, because they know that it's political suicide to do anything about it. From that perspective, because if the local sheriff were to come out here and say something, and I don't anticipate that at all, but let's just hypothetically say if he did, I'd say, are you prepared to try to run down every single adulterous case in this county? Are you prepared to deal with the political left when I stand up and I say it's just ethical non-monogamy?
That's
and
right.
It's just like, are you prepared to deal with? And these are things that the local sheriff, he doesn't want to have to deal with that when he gets into an election cycle or election campaign. And nobody wants to shoulder the burdens of a Supreme Court case, because it's going to have to go up through the courts and it's going to be extremely expensive. And if this side, I don't have those kind of funds, but there are a whole lot of powerful people that are in this camp, whether they agree with us with regards to polygyny or not, that if that, they're itching for that battle, and the resources will be there. And then it goes to the Supreme Court, and then, the state loses and it's egg on their face. Nobody wants that. They don't want that. And so what they prefer to do is to have a little bit of bluster and bluff and hope that the whole thing just goes away, and it's not going to. It's actually accelerating, as we will see tomorrow with this conversation with an attorney from South Africa.
Pete, 100%. It is a conundrum. We see, and Theology Experience just placed another comment here. He says, just wait for the so-called Christian nationalists to define marriage as one man, one woman. Now, you're right there, but the problem is that still doesn't answer the question what it looks like. It only references the parties to a marriage. It still doesn't say what a marriage is. It just says these are the two parties to that marriage. These are the two individuals that get involved in a marriage, you still don't have a definition for marriage. So even if you go with the argument for or purports to be married or is appearance of marriage, you still haven't defined marriage. Anyways, there you go. There's that link. Pete, I was able to find it. I appreciate it.
I thought I put it up there.
Yeah, you did. I just wanted to, for our viewers, to say you can go read that, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. That's that is the article. I wish I could give it to you the better way, but that's
if you were to look up academia.edu and do a search for Abraham Kilian, is that the way you're listed? Abraham
that's
Kilian?
Right.
Yeah, academia.edu, Abraham Kilian, and he has several articles on academia.edu. You could search him there. Maybe some of the other keywords, monogamous moral imperialism, that would probably be pretty key, or
provocative.
Yeah. But that's where we have to use their traps against themselves.
That's right. And it's coming. Pete, it's coming to the States. I am, just for the record, I am not in favor in states regulating marriage at all. I
Correct.
think that's my position.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen, and we've seen in Obergefell versus Hodges, we already seen Chief Justice John Roberts, United States Chief Justice. He already spoke about the fact that the logic used for majority of constitutionalized same-sex marriages would logically extend to validate plural marriage and polygamy. Mm-hmm. It's going to come. It's just a matter of time. Once again, my concern, Pete, this is my biggest concern. My concern with the drive to get polygamy in all its variations legalized is like same-sex marriages you would have in 2005 when it was legalized. You had such a mass of people running to get these licenses registered, but within 2 years, 95% they were all ended by divorce.
Right.
Unlike same-sex marriages, polygyny will result and lead to children. And so if we do not do something proper today, we're going to see another generation of fatherless children.
Right. And this is a weakness that we have in terms of feeling like we need to be validated by the state. The state loses its power over you, or it loses a portion of power over you when you step back and you say, I don't care what they think. I'm going to walk in righteousness. I don't need their approval. I'm going to walk in righteousness. I'm going to do what the Father has for me. And I think that's a significant step that a man makes to get us back, just to touch back on our basic topic. If you're the king of your domain, you're willing to stand and take a forceful place on principle for what you believe, and you don't care about what the world around you has to say or has to think. And anybody that knows me, my ladies will tell you this, I don't care. I really do not give two hoots in Hades what the adversary or those who stand against us think. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It's not my deal. I don't need their approval. I'm not interested in it. Don't care.
And Pete, to this point you just made, just binding it together with our introduction earlier on, and this is for all the viewers that are currently watching and those that may watch in the future. It is of utmost importance that you get involved with organizations like Parlay with Pete, like Maxima Potentia. For the record, there's a lot of symbiosis between both our organizations. It's a family. We're part of Forge Media, so right. It's McDonald's or Burger King. It's a poor analogy. I apologize, but the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, if we do not take the time that is allotted to us now, before all of this is legal, and we do not establish strong men that have experience educated, are examples of these relationships, then and practice them in true patriarchy, then what we are going to get is we're going to get people just mess it up. And you know what's going to happen? People are going to say afterwards, you see, we told you it's not going to work. You fail. Without realizing that monogamous relationships in Europe, especially in England, had 400 years of church support. That's where we get the word husband and wife from, because the churches and the local monasteries were all involved to ensure that men are good husbands, women are good wives, so that they can establish proper, strong states. And so if they're going to give them 400 years, I don't need 400 years, but kindly give us at least 100.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of going to war. I am happy to take a bold stand. One of the things that I really love about both of our organizations, and as you say, there are others that are out there, but our focus and our goal, our intent, is to build and strengthen and prepare men to be heads of their house, to be good, strong husbands, to be patriarchs, to be leaders, for ladies to have a place to grow and fellowship and be encouraged. And it's an opportunity for us to prepare the next generation. We're really, I mean, our desire is to prepare the next generation. And we're doing that one man, one family at a time. And that's doing it the right way, opposed to just trying to throw a big blanket lasso out there.
Absolutely. And Pete, I one thing that, and you know how I feel about this, and for the viewers, you need to understand one thing. I do not go with good faith approaches when we as believers come together and we say it'll figure itself out as we go ahead. That's not my approach. I'm very critical about that type of approach, because that's an approach that shows that, I apologize, it's stupid. It's a stupidity approach. We prepare today for tomorrow. And so what we do is we're continually pressing forward intellectually. We're pressing forward with experience. If we don't, we gain the necessary experience. Now, Peter, I would highly recommend men start reading the book written by Friedrich Bastiat, The Law, because he goes at the heart of humanism here. He's not a Torah or a Bible believer or whatever, but at the point here is important to understand the position that the state has, that the state's responsibility is, but also what the importance is of you as a man within your household. Because to your point, you spoke earlier about harm. We need to understand that harm, when there's harm within your household, then the state will get involved. But if there's no harm in your household and the state wants to get involved, then the state is now has to face the possibility that it may become the harm that it seeks to protect. And Bastiat writes about this. And I'll give you the link here if you wish to pay. But I would highly recommend this thing about good faith approach. We'll figure it out. No, you start with understanding the law, because I can tell you now, if you take that part of what Bastiat writes about law, and you start reading Torah again, yes, it's a secular humanist approach that he goes. But if you take that and you read Torah, you would start seeing the system within Torah that seeks to protect, advance, and ensure that Israel, called Israel, eventually governs everything that it's responsible for, not just aspects of it. It is growing and constantly expanding. But we do not. For such a long time, we did not do that.
Yes, please put that link in there, and I'll make sure that it gets posted up front. But by growing men, developing men, what we're doing is we're essentially multiplying ourselves too. Because I'd love to see dozens more men, on the forefront of the battle. There are a lot of men that the first place that they take up the sword of truth if we want to be real, metaphorical here with it. The first place they take up the sword of truth is in social media, where they're interacting on YouTube videos and interacting in the comments on Facebook posts and interacting over on Insta and that kind of thing. And that it's important to be able to start getting those pithy comments and giving the pushback and presenting truth in a righteous and compassionate way, but not allowing falsehoods to stand. You simply step up and say, that's not true according to Scripture. And you constantly bring the Scripture back. And by doing this, it is, so I think some men become discouraged because they don't see immediate results, but you have to remember that we're always actually speaking to the bleachers. We're rarely actually speaking to the people that we're addressing directly, because in many cases, they're already set in their way. But it's those reading the comments and reading through and their mindset, and they have to, you can throw a stone in their shoe and they have to start processing the holes in the argument that they see for monogamy onlyism, and it further grows what we're already seeing. You and I are seeing this as a global phenomenon at this point. I've got viewers around the world. You've got readers and viewers around the world. You've got a great finger on the pulse of Africa and things going on in Africa, especially Southern Africa, and it's amazing. This is obviously, to me, it's obviously something the Father's hand is in, because it wouldn't be happening the way that it's happening at the low levels and grassroots without his hand in it.
Well, Peter, I can tell you one thing: the African Church, the Anglican Church of Africa, as well as its Catholic peer, have now, in the last year, have gone and said that both world bodies of the Anglican and of the Catholic Church have got for so long lied about plural marriages and sought to destroy African cultures with their Greco-Roman monogamy-only approach. And so we've seen that the African churches have now started to distance themselves from their mother bodies, and it's interesting to be a spectator. To your point earlier. And what we've started seeing, and I want to mention this, Pete. I've debated so many times online. I consider feminism on the same category as communism. They are both totalitarian, absolutist ideologies. There is simply no good faith.
I would agree.
There is simply no good faith in arguing with them. If you want to, you would have to go fire with fire. But don't think that you're going to be arguing kindness with them, because they will not argue in good faith with you. And to your point, yes, we are definitely arguing for the bleachers, because with feminists like communists, it's simply not a position to even get them to even be convinced of your position or of the truth that Scripture speaks of. And so, once again, to my point, we as men, part of being a king, if you struggle with being able to speak proper, stand in front of a mirror and start practicing. Learn to speak. You may not be a greatest orator ever in human history, but you have to learn to address your kingdom. If you are not able to even, and this is an important one that I always tell the guys at Maximum Potentia. If you, as a young man, unmarried man, if you're not even able to convince another man of your position that is logical, or you find yourself in a logical environment, how on earth are you able to even convince a woman that is emotional? So at the end of the day, you cannot expect to convince a woman of your lifestyle if you're not even able to convince another man. And so get involved, start talking, get involved with structures in your vicinity. Talk to men, learn to talk. If you're nervous of talking, put yourself in those positions so that you are able to learn to speak, because you're going to find yourself if you are blessed with more than one woman, you will have to talk. And if you're a nobody in society, no woman is even considered, because Pete, A lot of men come to me, they said, we want polygyny because we will get woman. I'm telling you now, it is easier for you to get a woman in a monogamy only society than for you to compete like against a handsome, a good looking guy like you, good looking, smart guy like you. Because I'm telling you now, it is easier for you to obtain a woman if you're a loner guy than it's going to be in polygyny, because you will have to improve your share value. You will have to do a lot of introspective work. And so be careful what you want, because you're going to be competing against men that understand the principles of being a king way better than you.
This is, and you make a great point right there in terms of a very practical, or a couple of very practical things to do. And maybe what we need to do is transition into a couple minutes of just talking about the practical things that you can do to develop your gravitas, to develop your weight as a man and as king of your domain. And we can just throw some different ideas out there as we think about them. I probably should have made a list prior to, but again, we talked about skills, broadening and perfecting your skills. There are too many men today who have zero skills in any of the trades, never mind having the ability to do a bunch of different things. Can you fix the plumbing around your house? Can you work out minor electrical or even major electrical issues? Or who do you know in your circle that you can call? We had a partial house fire here, and I had some dear brothers with some construction background. I'm pretty handy. I can do a lot of things, but I specifically needed help calling in for the electrics. But I was steady with them and asking them to teach me this, that, and the other as we were going. And we can do minor wiring. We've done some other stuff on things around here, the barn and such, even recently. Can you do light masonry work? Can you do light construction work? Do you know gardening? Do you have that ability? Do you actively look for ways and develop the equipment to have some other small skill sets on the side, things that may be different? I know for me, I built a little forge and acquired an anvil and a set of hammers, so
nice.
We can hammer stuff out. We've got to be perfectly frank, along the way we purchased the equipment necessary to be able to purify water. Right?
Nice, smart.
We can ferment and purify water.
Pete. And I want to just for the record, are you going to be making katanas very soon?
No, that is not yet in my skill set.
Pete, I want to say this. You have to start. Let's start with let's start at square number one. Learn to talk proper.
Yeah.
And learn and read. Proper talking, reading, read, gentlemen. Even if you say, I cannot read for longer than 5 minutes. My question is, if you cannot read for longer than 5 minutes, how on earth are you going to be in conversation to listen to a woman for 5 minutes? Understand? For goodness sake, you're going to engage, a woman's going to engage you in conversation, and she's going to tell you a story that she could probably tell you in 1 minute, but she's going to tell you in over 10 minutes. And then you will have to sit and listen to all the intricacies and the labyrinth of female conversation. And if you do not like that, don't get married. Secondly, if you do not know how to write, start writing. Even if it's just 1 page, learn to write. Because if you put your thoughts down on paper, you are also getting better at organizing your thoughts in your mind. When your thoughts in your mind are more organized, then what's going to happen? Your conversations are going to be more organized. Learn to defend yourself. Learn to fight. A man that has no skill in fighting is useless to society, because you won't be able to defend your mother. You won't be able to defend your sister. You won't be able to defend your girlfriend and possibly your wife and children one day. Why would you want to engage in marriage if you are not able to handle yourself in its most bare minimum of hand-to-hand conflict? Take up jujitsu. Take up Muay Thai. Just do something. Okay, don't take up karate. It's a waste of time. At the end of the day, that is part of those are the most basic things, because those have a direct influence in your gravitas, Pete. Because a man, and I've said this so many times to so many men, if you want to come and fight me because you are getting upset with what I've said, and this happens quite often with my kinsmen in South Africa, I told them this. Based upon my experience, we have probably an 80% chance of you losing against me. However, there's a 20% chance that you may win. But after you or I have won, we still need to engage the topic that got us here to the conflict. And so when we engage each other as men, and I know, Pete, that you're a dangerous man, I'm going to have more respect for you. I'm going to talk a little bit clearer and a little less emotional. Because if you confuse your fallopian tubes with your testicles, then you should not get married as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Absolutely. Completely agree. Completely agree. And I love the idea of learning to verbalize thoughts and be able to articulate those, doing that in the mirror. A good time if you have drive time. It's a good time too to have some of that conversation out loud, because a lot of times we carry on conversations in our head and we think, oh, I can articulate that, in the physical verbal. But the truth is, what happens up here, you've got to practice making this transition to here. Yes. And so saying it out loud and to carry those the thoughts and making them to transition those into accurate statements that you can articulate takes a little bit of practice. And while you're driving to work, whatever. I remember way back in the day, and this is related, but way back in the day, something that helped me. I was in business, in sales, and Shad Helmstedler's self-talk, right? And it's a lot about positive self-talk and that sort of thing. But the thing that I learned out of it, probably more than anything, was being able to practice and articulate. And to get there, I had to do it by doing it, right? You can't assume that I've thought my way through all of these arguments. Now, the first time that I have this conversation, it should be golden. No, I'll be my own interlocutor and wrestle back and forth over something. I'll give myself the common answers back, and then I will respond to those. Right. So don't go easy on yourself. Give yourself a hard time and then answer it.
Pete, to go hard on yourself is being manly. Okay, we be a Spartan, for goodness sake. We do not want to. This is important, Pete. Society, the greatness of society, of the great societies, were built by the sweat and the blood of men. In addition to the sweat and blood that these men were willing to go to war to protect that what is dear for them, dear to them. And a lot of what is dear to them was the color and the beauty of femininity. But at this present moment, we see a society where I can tell you with confidence, men are not willing to put their lives on the line for feminists or feminism, because it's not worth protecting. It is not. It is a cancerous ideology that seeks to destroy every aspect of civilized society. At its core, the family. It seeks to destroy the last vestige of what is rational in this world. That is what feminism is. Right. And so if you are going to learn, like you just said, to speak, if you are going to learn to utter your rational mind. Learn to be objective, just, but also know what you are fighting for, and get yourself a woman that is feminine, that is worth dying for, and be
Mm,
the man that she is worth serving.
mm, I mean, great stuff. I want to go back to a couple comments here. I'm going to put two up in close succession here because I'd love to comment or say something about these. Kodiak, as a true king, just pay to get it done, opposed to doing it yourself. And this was put up when I was talking about some of the different skill sets you can develop. And another, I was just about to say that an established king has servants so that he can focus on higher priority tasks. And there is a balance. There is an issue where we need to learn and handle and manage higher priority tasks. But let me tell you something. Your testosterone level goes up when you accomplish a significant task. Your testosterone level goes up when you finish a workout, when you spend the day building something and you stand back and you look at it and go, I did that, right? Your confidence level goes up. Your strength typically goes up. I can tell you I'm sore because yesterday, my ladies can attest, they're hanging out over here listening in. But yesterday I spent the afternoon after Lowe's delivered laying cement block, because I'm building an outdoor kitchen for us. For, we've got the typical grill set up and some gas grills and stuff like that. But what we really want is a Brazilian churrasqueira, which is a Brazilian type barbecue pit, along with some counter space and a wood fired cooktop.
Oh, well, those are great. Those are great. I'm visiting you. I'm going to be visiting you. I love those Brazilian.
Listen, I can't wait for y'all to come.
Oh, that's amazing. Please, I interrupted you.
Both of my ladies.
Interrupted you.
But here's the point. I could pay a ton to somebody else to do it. And if I had all of those kind of resources, I suppose I could, but I would not have the pride and the personal growth that comes from learning, or in this case, sharpening. I laid cement block years ago in Mexico as part of a big project, but learning a skill set, working on that skill set, studying it out, making the plans, putting the whole thing together, and developing all of that actually increases your gravitas, from the perspective that, if you go through this, then you have the ability to have conversation on subjects beyond your narrow window. You can talk about other things because you have experience in other areas. It also gives you a great way to interact with other men who come from those fields and be able to ask questions, intelligent questions, and learn and grow. And you got the testosterone bump out of the whole thing. You've got the satisfaction of it being well done, and it gives you more standing, if you will. I remember a long time ago really developing the idea within myself, and I think it's more of a military kind of development, because I do come from a military background. But the idea that the ground I stand on is mine. You've got to take it if you want it. And I know this is a very similar warrior mindset to what you would have as a jiu-jitsu champion, a national champion you are, right?
Yes.
But the ground that I stand on is mine. And if you want it, you're going to have to come take it. And I'm not giving it up easily. And so this is part of, as men, having this attitude of maintaining my place and developing my place and growing in my place to expand this holding. And I'm not simply going to acquiesce or roll over for anybody else that's out there. And that should be the mindset of any king, the mindset of any patriarch, the mindset of any man. And we've got too many men who are willing to farm it out. I let somebody else do it. Don't worry about it. And that's actually, unless you just have, stupid money, in most cases, it's laziness, right? And don't be lazy. be willing to get out there and work, be willing to get out there and do what it takes to grow your kingdom and conserve your resources and put them in hard assets that you can put away, right?
Pete,
So
you mentioned earlier, and this bounds to what you've said earlier about when you do something, who do you do it for? Now, you should never do something for your wives. Now, this is very careful. People should not misunderstand me. You should do things in honor of your king, the Messiah. That is what you have to do. But to your point, which you did yesterday, you are proud of what you did. You got that testosterone kick. You looked upon it and you say, is this worthy of my king, his servant? But here comes the kicker. Because when your wife walks out and they see what you've done, they look at you with different eyes. And that is priceless. That gleam that you get from when you look into their eyes. Because let me tell you now, women's industriousness is way higher than a man's. But you as a visionary, that inspires them to continue. It's when a husband loses his vision, when a woman starts finding herself on unstable ground, when she starts questioning her own safety. Now, at the end of the day, and this is important, we can do whatever we want to do, but it starts when you're a single man. Your culture in your household one day is established when you are single. When you do things when you are single. Don't have a house that is a pigsty. Have gravitas. Take care of your stuff. Pick up your clothing. For goodness sake, have pride. Because I tell you, you come from nations and people. Sooner or later, we all come from nations that had one or more in time in human's history, some greatness, some more than others. But despite that, the day you got conceived, you beat millions to be here. You'll never have to compete about those odds again. So that makes, by virtue of you being alive and being here, you're a champion. So for goodness sake, act like the champion, while those who lost on the day that you were conceived are the spectators in the bleachers looking at you trying to achieve some semblance of normancy in this crazy world. Now let's go.
Yeah, tear the doors off the locker room. We're going to the field. Woo!
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got the Gipper speech there. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Good stuff. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. So, wow, I'm excited. I'm excited about where we're going as a movement. I'm excited about the things that I see in your coaching program. I'm excited about some of the stuff that's going on in ours. What are some of the things you've got coming up? Now, y'all are working on a couple books right now. And yes, I have not finished my submission. I'm sorry.
No, it's no rush.
I'm working on it. But remind me, I'm gonna go over here right quick. I want to pull this up so you can narrate this for us a little bit. Yes. I want you to refresh us on the, let's see.
So while you get that, let me just tell you a backstory of this. This was the initiative of the very good Dr. Kilian, my first wife. She is, I am so blessed to have two exceptional women in my life. You know, I want to make this comment. Everybody always looks at polygyny and say, I have to endure it. I have to endure it. Oh, dear me, such hardship. If you change your mind to the fact that you are a team and that you can achieve greatness, and this is where I'm thankful for these two ladies, because they are a team. They are with me. I am part of their team. They are part of my team. I lead and govern, protect them. They have enthusiasm, creativity, and support. And so Rujane came up with this idea. Let's go and collect stories of both men and women. One book, Her Heart Had Room, and the other book, Stewards of Many Hearts. Her Heart Had Room will contain all the books, all the stories of women that are either challenged by polygyny, that engage in polygyny, or left their husbands because of polygyny. The same with the men's book, their challenges, their what they've experienced. We do not want to create this idea that this is a perfect lifestyle and that it's a lifestyle that does not have challenges. No, we want to bring the realities, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that when a man or a woman reads these stories, that they can actually have a window to reality of a human experience that is clearly endorsed and regulated by our Heavenly Father through His Torah. At the end of the day, so that when you have to look at this, you would say, what are the challenges? What may be the things that would get me to stumble, so that you will learn from the successes of others, but also from the errors of others, so that you don't do the same or that you duplicate it. There will be a code correlation between if it's a man and woman that submitted, let's say in your case with your two lovely ladies, what will happen is there will be your two ladies story will be in the ladies book, and it will be coded together with your story in the men's book, so you can actually read these stories juxtaposed and see how it happens and plays out. At the end of the day, what we want to make sure of is that we also want to protect those that that maybe want to write this anonymously or under a pseudonym. You can go to our website, submit your story, but do take note that every person that submits a story, we would want to have a meeting with you simply to confirm that you are who you say you are. We don't want to build the story on fiction or fantasy. We want to build it on truth. And so this is a great initiative by Rujane, and the Kilian household has really gotten on this project, and it's also no part of Maxima Potentia's first books that they will issue, but at the same time it also forms part of the greater family of Forge Media, because like our brother Jared Cheshire, we want to follow in his footsteps to produce these books. And so for those who listen in, get involved, go to our website, submit your stories. If you have a husband or an ex-husband or an ex-wife that have divorced you in this process, get them connected as well, because we want their story as well. We want to make sure that we get theirs. It's going to be quite interesting to get their submissions as well. But yes, that is what we want to see achieved through this initiative.
So yes, both of my ladies are working on their stories respectively. I know that I started and I have not finished. I've got to put that on my short list hopefully this week. But yeah, I am super excited about this project and where it can go. And I'm honestly jealous I didn't come up with the idea, because this is brilliant.
Well, it's a smarter person than you and I probably put together that came up with this idea. I can tell you that.
So yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm really, really excited about it. Other book recently just released is a book titled Along Came My Friend. It's volume 1 by Rachel Jacobs. Along Came My Friend by Rachel Jacobs. It is it is a fictional, but it's really looking at polygyny and looking at Torah from a positive side, because so often everybody's looking at the negative side and the challenges and the struggles, and instead this is from very much decidedly a positive side, and the benefits and the beauty of it and all of that. That's another book. It is now available, I believe, on Amazon. It's worth looking up.
Isn't it? This book is also part of a series, Pete. Am I correct?
It is part of a series, as I understand it. The next volume is in the works. I know this, the tail end of it, I got to read it before it got published. The tail end of it is a cliffhanger, which automatically, and it's listed as volume 1, so it automatically implies that there's another one coming behind it. It was originally published as a series on our patron, and so periodically a chapter would come out. Periodically, with chapter, well, it's now available in paperback as a full all-in-one volume. It's about 260 pages, and I thoroughly enjoyed the story as we read through it the first time, and can't wait to hold a copy of it in our hands. We have not seen a copy yet. We're waiting for it.
I know Dr. Kilian wrote it as well, and she just loved it. I know she just finished it, I think, what, a week or two ago. And yeah, she was really, she said it reminds her of books of Janet Oak when she grew up. It really had that nice, distinct flavor and to it. So yeah, we need more of these, Pete. We need more of this.
Yeah, a quick peek at what you're looking for on Amazon. This is the book that I'm talking about right here. And I think somebody just put a link into the chat. I will post that here. But Along Came My Friend, Volume 1. So right here on Amazon. Another good one. So one of the things I'm really excited about is out of our circles, and we're seeing a lot of creatives. We've actually got a whole section of our patron dedicated to the creatives that are working on memes, that are working on visual things that are quick and catchy and pithy, that help bring truth. We see books. I know that there's some people that are looking at that are producing music and now looking for ways to put together some short videos and this sort of thing. Maybe we may have some longer movies at some point, but certainly the books coming along as well. It's exciting. This is very exciting,
Peter. And also, I think it would be also very prudent for us to make reference to our dear friend and fellow Forge Media elder, Jared Cheshire's book. Mine just arrived, and I cannot wait to sink my teeth in it. And there we go. That book. If, that would also be something also coming out of this ecosystem of Maxima Potentia and Parlay with Pete, and absolutely also a book for you guys to consider getting.
Yeah. So this again is where men in their domain are sharpening their craft and then turning their craft and utilizing it for the purpose of building kingdom and for the purpose of expanding truth and pushing things out there. And this is where men are doing what men are supposed to be doing, right? So I'm very excited about this book as well. This is actually, yes, I can say this. I have video evidence to this effect. This is the first copy, and it is actually signed by all of the Forge Media team, and was sent here. I was blessed in that regard. So exciting. And that happened at the conference.
That's right.
Take it back to the top, the Kingdom Restoration Conference. So very good, very exciting.
And Pete, if I may, just one last comment here.
Oh, absolutely.
For the viewers here, I think one thing that's very dear to my heart and your heart is you may be sitting at home and you don't know where to start. You think, listen, maybe you're a little overwhelmed. Maybe you came out of a very bad divorce and you just wanted to reestablish yourself. Listen, you're not lost. Stop with despair. I want you to either reach out to Pete or to myself or to our different organizations and get involved. Pete's got one of the largest active communities in this ecosystem, and a lot of wise guys, a lot of very, very experienced people. And a lot of time we find that there is a lot of cross-pollination of people that have dear membership. But at the end of the day, you may start by sitting on your couch today, just listening to what we said and that despair. But I tell you, may in a year or two, or even 3 from now on, You may be one of the guys that may write or produce something significant
Mm.
that can advance somebody else's life towards a proper, well established relationship with the Messiah and eventually be reconciled with our Heavenly Father. You are an important part. No part is greater than the sum of its whole. No part is greater than the sum of its whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so you, by just taking that step today, may just bear the fruit that is required to inspire myself, Pete, or any other person in this ecosystem, because you decide to become active. And that is an important part.
Mm. Amen. And coming from a military background, I can tell you, combined arms warfare, not all of us have the same gifts, not all of us have the same skills, but together the sum of the parts is much, much greater than just the simple addition of the whole. Because we become force multipliers for each other. Any
Yes.
infantry unit will tell you without air support, they're in deep water. Any infantry unit will tell you without artillery support, they're in deep water. The Air Force will tell you they can't hold the ground unless the infantry's on the ground. You got to have boots on the ground to hold it. So each of us in our respective areas, each of us are necessary, and we need guys at every level.
Right.
The military is not all a bunch of generals. It's, there are a lot more privates than there are generals. However, some privates become generals, right? And so it's important to get started on the trail, to start putting the work in, to develop to develop the skill set that you need, to develop the gravitas as a man, so that when you walk into a room, people look at you and go, now there's a guy that's worth dealing with. There's a man who you can look at him and tell that he is honorable, that he has bearing, that he is sharp and knows what he's doing and where he's going and that kind of thing. Develop your vision. Figure out, why is it that the Father has you here? Why did you get called? And I honestly believe this is a call. I believe my brother Abrie would agree with me, but understanding headship and patriarchy, particularly understanding the subset of polygyny, it's a calling. And I'm confident that you're not here by accident. You're not here because the Father made a mistake, or somehow you discovered something along the way that you didn't know what to do with. I'm convinced that every one of us that are here, we're here because he has a specific intent and purpose for us. And so what you need to do is you need to pursue him, and you need to figure out, what is it that your purpose and intent is? Why does he have you here? And then how can you be used or useful to him in the kingdom? How can you be of value to him in the kingdom? And then get about doing what it is that he's called you to do. So absolutely, I'm very excited about where we're going, the men that we're working with. Very excited about each of the ones that are right here in the chat, as well as those who will see this. So
Thank
all
you.
right. Well, Brother Abrie, we've got another appointment in just less than 10 hours. we get to do this again, don't we? So exciting. I am very excited about this upcoming interview, because I think that it has it's groundbreaking. It's taking forward those things that you and I have been working with for a while, and just putting them on steroids, because it's bringing this into a very high public light.
That's right.
Exciting. Very exciting.
And Pete, I just want to say to you, spearheading this, you are the original here on in this space, and we are very thankful for you being obedient. We also, I and my ladies and all the community, I and as much as I would like to consider myself speaking on behalf of all of them, I simply can't. But my attempt is to thank that both your ladies for supporting you in this endeavor. For all the men that were able to sign in from across the globe, sitting in and listening, I want to say thank you too, because we are at war, gentlemen. We are at war, and if you do not start seeing that war, knowing that you need to get into the trenches because there are brothers that need you. Tell your wives, and if for the wives are listening, your husband is in front lines. You need to start supporting him. Unless we do not start realizing all of these aspects, your husband will fail. You will be left destitute. That was never our Father's plan. And so we are at war, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen.
Let's move this forward.
Amen. Amen. Hey, look, we got Brazil in the house. So there we go.
There we go.
All right, folks. Fantastic. Blessings to all of you guys. Have had a fantastic evening this evening, and time to sleep fast and get some work done and then get back into the studio because
Amen.
we've got a big one tomorrow as well.
Amen.
Very exciting. But Brother Abrie, I thank you so much. I really appreciate the stand and the many sacrifices and challenges that your family has been through over the course of the last couple years. But I'm telling you, you keep at it, you keep hanging in there, and I really appreciate what y'all are doing.
We are not hanging in there, Pete. We are at war. We're taking the fight to the front line. We're not just surviving. We are going ahead.
Amen.
But thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. All right, folks, for King and Kingdom, we bid you shalom.